This is our first show in 4 years, so we have a huge number of quilts to display. The ladies kept some of their quilts, which makes for a good show. If they had kept all of them, we would have to use the whole building for the show instead of just the gymnasium. Our show is in the Westville Civic Gymnasium. Let's go in and have a look. Beware of the rack bases. Chairs or decorative items have been placed over top of them to help keep people from bumping their toes on them. We don't want any fallsy downsies at this show. We will start a tour with some of the large quilts. A small paper hand pinned to the quilt means that it was hand quilted. If you don't see one, it was machine quilted. Both methods require skill and practice. This bright quilt is a simple country sampler. The pattern is from Rabbit Factory, and this example of it has been made by Grace Paris. Quite a few of our ladies made this quilt in a class they took from Shelley Ty. It wasn't a guild workshop, so the quilts aren't grouped together. They all look very different. Just goes to show you what happens when you use a whole lot of different fabrics and arrange them in a different manner. Country Stars was made by Deborah Battis and machine quilted by Joanne Swanson. Quilters often make the top of the quilt and send it out to someone else to machine quilt it with a long arm quilting machine. The quilt goes back home for the finishing touches. Sometimes people even have someone hand quilt it. The Holy Name quilters often do this for people. Rail Fence is Isabel Mason's creation and was machine quilted by Denise White. Oh My Stars was pieced and machine quilted by Virginia Cole Gallant. Jack of T-shirts was made by Marlene Tedford. Joyce Eaton is responsible for the Folk Angel, quilted by Joanne Swanson. The Spring Blocks quilt was pieced and quilted by Marlene Tedford and is for donation to Tierman House. Our ladies often have a variety of different styles to the quilts that they make. Here you see a simple country sampler pieced and hand quilted by Carol McNeil. Jocelyn MacDonnell made Every Which Way. We have our standard laneways for the quilts, with some cul-de-sacs added to accommodate the extras. On our way into the first cul-de-sac, we see a display rack sporting a blue churn dash quilt, pieced and hand quilted by Joan Waters. Lynn Dispersio made this simple country sampler and had Joanne Swanson machine quilted for her. Hockey Game was pieced by Diane Gordon and machine quilted by Joanne Swanson. This sampler quilt of 6.5-inch blocks was pieced and hand quilted by Linda Crosby. With a vintage appeal, we have On the Farm feed sacks, pieced and quilted by Rebecca Goodwin McCallum. The T-shirts quilt was made by Marlene Tedford. What a good way to use up those T-shirts that we all seem to collect so many of. The Rabbit Factory Simple Country Sampler was made and hand quilted by Joan Waters. The Little Gnomes and Holiday Themed quilt was made by Sandra Chisholm and machine quilted by Joanne Swanson. From Circles to Stars was made and hand quilted by Mary Wadden. Mary also crafted the interlocked green and orange woven stars, making sure to carefully hand quilt it. Next up is a 9-patch On Point by Joyce Eaton and machine quilted by Joanne Swanson. It will be donated to Tierman House. For the non-quilters in the audience, On Point means to turn the square around so the corners point up and down, like a diamond shape. It gives a different look and adds an extra level of difficulty to the work. The Watcher Skull was pieced and hand quilted by Rebecca Goodwin McCallum. Deborah Battis made Amazing Grace from a printed panel and machine quilted it using the embroidery feature on her sewing machine. Ellen Peters calls her quilt with grays, whites, and reds her COVID lockdown log cabin. It could likely symbolize moods for many of us. Gray for the bad days, red for when we were really fed up with the whole situation, and white for when we were allowed out again. This pretty country sampler is the work of Karen Tugwell. It was machine quilted by Joanne Swanson. Wilma Jenkins pieced and quilted the Magic Tile. Wilma's going to be teaching a workshop on this one for us in the coming year. A Star Surrounded was pieced and machine quilted by Virginia Cull Gallant. The quilt beside it is called Beads. You can picture a string of beads hanging from a lamp or a cord when you see it. It was made by Sandra Marshall. Blue with pink roses was made by Marlene Tedford. We truly wish there was room to spread these beautiful quilts all the way out so you can fully appreciate how glorious they are. Unfortunately, some are a bit squished or folded. You will have to let your imagination go to work for you. Made modern, the cream, blue, and gold masterpiece was crafted by Virginia Cull Gallant. The Nordic Star in blue and white beside it was made by Juanita Atkins and machine quilted by Ken Grantham. This cute, small turquoise and white quilt featuring embroidered sayings was made by Juanita Atkins. Round the corner, and you see Glow in the Dark, and next to it, Boo, both made and quilted by Deborah Battist. She quilted them using her embroidery machine. The German Shepherd's quilt was made by Cindy Knight. Janet Recker, The True Meaning of Christmas, is a subtle Christmas quilt made by Rebecca Goodwin McCallum. Its theme is so subtle that the ladies missed hanging it with the Christmas quilts. This series of tans and blues, trimmed in black, is called Simply Sassy. It was made by Debbie Bowen and machine quilted by Joanne Swanson. Beside it hangs French Roses by Diane Gordon, also machine quilted by Joanne Swanson. If you get up close enough to it, you'll notice that the roses have texture to them. Norma McCara's Magical Meadows has been a long time in the making. We are glad to see it has finally arrived. Next to it is a Serenity Prayer made by Deborah Battist. Deborah used the embroidery on her sewing machine to quilt it. Most of us could use a bit of serenity. We see the back of Diane Gordon's hockey quilt on her way out of this little alcove. When we turn the corner, we see Nature Tree in soft, earthy beiges and browns, made by Rebecca Goodwin McCallum. Next to it hangs Pink and White Stars by Juanita Atkins, machine quilted by Ken Grantham. Mary Wadden's hand-quilted version of Goodnight Irene is next in line. We'll head back to the front of the room and come down the next laneway. There's a little display table holding a tea cozy and a small sewing kit at the top of the aisle. In mostly shades of blue, we have Sharon Smith's Simple Country Sampler, machine quilted by Joanne Swanson. Next up is Kate Anderson's variation on a 9-patch called Single Irish Jane. She hand-quilted it. The cheerful-looking circles beside it are made as a variation of a log cabin, and it's called Log Cabin Circles. Jocelyn McDonnell quilted it with a charming shell pattern. The colorful pinwheel-like lap quilt, next up, was created by Claudette Campbell at a summer sew-along by River's End Quilting. The blue and white chandelier quilt was pieced and quilted by Alice Marie West. The little table, strategically placed over the rack base, holds a pretty tablet case. These little gems have been placed here for your safety. They also add a very nice decorative feature. The next quilt is also Alice's work. It is a result of a 9-patch block exchange with a Monday night sewing group. It was machine quilted by Denise White. Janice Dion will often find a pattern she sort of likes, but sees ways to improve it or tweak it. That is what she did with this pattern called Happy Trails from Jenny Dome. Jenny demoed it at a retreat in Digby at Quilt by the Bay in 2019. After the tweaking, Janice is happy with it. Kate Anderson pieced and hand-quilted this eye-catching item from 6.5-inch squares of K-Facet fabrics, so she called it K-Facet. The quilt in greens and tans is Wilma Jenkins' version of a stack and whack. It is a special way of stacking patterned fabrics, cutting them, and then matching up the cut pieces so that you blend the pattern in a pleasing manner. Look at this bright yellow pillow decorating the base of the rack. Joan Waters hand-quilted it. We will turn around and look at the quilts on the other side, starting with the lane marker hanging over an old-fashioned wooden quilt holder. This is a memory quilt pieced by Ellen Peters and machine quilted by Linda Rose. The pretty blue and white quilt is Tennessee Waltz, made by Deborah Battis and quilted by Joanne Swanson. The beautiful applique quilt beside it is Nana's Flowers, made by Diane Gordon and machine quilted by Denise White. The brown, gold, and white quilt was made by Alice Marie West and machine quilted by Denise White. The colorful, scrappy quilt has blocks originating from a block exchange that Carol McNeil participated in. She put it all together and hand-quilted it. Carol Jackson has taken to paper piecing like she was born to it. She makes beautiful scenes in quilted form, and here you see her rendition of Mermaids at Home. This quilt, called Sisters, is a tribute to Carol's sister. Virginia Call Gallant is a master at intricate machine quilting. Her quilt, Making Connections, shows off her skill. There is free hand and ruler work involved in the quilting. Fire Island, Hosta Queen, is another excellent example of Virginia's work. We turn a corner and go down the next lane. The dark blues and tans of Courtyard Cabin await us. This is the work of Deborah Battis. It was machine quilted by Ken Grantham. Dream Big is a stunning work of Virginia Call Gallant. Imagine running this around on the sewing machine with no way to regulate the stitch length and having to make all those little circles round. Spring on Bleecker Street was made by Virginia. Bleecker Street looks like a pretty busy spot. Sail Away originated from a panel and was pieced by Ann Maddie, machine quilted by Deborah Howard. Black Wine and White Lattice was pieced by Debbie Defoe and machine quilted by Joanne Swanson. Endangered Species is a tribute to these beautiful animals by Carol Jackson. Garden Gone Wild is an abstract floral beauty, freehand custom quilted by Virginia Call Gallant. Felicity, in black and white with yellow accents, is the work of Debbie Bowen, machine quilted by Joanne Swanson. This play on black and white is called Mini Trip Around the World, pieced by Deborah Battis and machine quilted by Joanne Swanson. Let's take a look at the quilts at the front of the room that face the laneways. On our left is a beautiful Stonehenge-themed quilt made from a panel and paired with matching fabrics. The coordinating pillow has a Celtic knot pattern. Janice Dion hand-quilted these lovely pieces. Its hanging mate, also from a panel, actually two panels combined, is Norma McCara's Moments of Wonder. This quilt was based on Japanese quilting techniques and motifs. Red-capped cranes are considered to be birds from heaven. In this quilt, they are looking towards the evening sky, evoking a sense of wonder for the beauty and mystery of the natural world. We will move along to the large quilts on the side wall. Claudette Campbell made this colorful scrappy quilt. Rebecca Goodwin McCallum made a quirky, cute one from J. Recker called Tea Lovers. Next up on our tour is the Balmoral Gristmill quilt, made by Rebecca Goodwin McCallum. A colorful French braid comes next, pieced by Debbie Defoe and machine quilted by Joanne Swanson. Alberta Lake Cabin, with its cute, woodsy scenes, was made by Norma McCara. Little houses are depicted on this quilt, called Our House, and was made by Ellen Peters, quilted by Linda Rose. Sweet Dreams will encourage you to have them when you sleep under it. Designed by Pat Sloan, pieced by Sharon Smith and machine quilted by Joanne Swanson. Mary Wadden made this Ohio star and carefully hand quilted it. Beside it hangs a log cabin in beiges, golds, and browns. It was pieced by Betty and machine quilted by Linda Rose. Pound of Sugar in green and blue was pieced by Karen Tugwell and machine quilted by Joanne Swanson. Doesn't it look like something sweet? Chocolate Ribbons is the name of this quilt, and you can see why. It was pieced and hand quilted by Mary Wadden. Beside it sits Chandelier in cream, gold, green, and blue. It was pieced and machine quilted by Anna Lakeman. Bees and other bits decorate this quilt, called Whimsy, pieced by Ann Maddie and quilted by Denise White. Chandelier on a gray background was pieced by Debbie Bowen and machine quilted by Joanne Swanson. Reach for the Stars, with pink and blue stars on point, was pieced by Alice Marie West and quilted by Denise White. Monterey Medallion, a burst of blues with the squares on point, was pieced by Alice Marie West and quilted by Denise White. The Bargello Queen in brown and creams was made by Claudette Campbell. Variation on a 9-patch and a rail fence is called Graceful Garden. It was pieced by Linda Crosby and hand quilted by Linda and the Holy Name Quilters. This wave Bargello in pinks and reds was pieced by Deborah Battist, machine quilted by Ken Grantham. Breakfast in Bed is a small 9-patch variation pieced by Marilyn Murray and machine quilted by Sherry Cooper. Betty Richard pieced this pretty, colorful quilt with lots of yellow and cream, and Linda Rose machine quilted it. Isabel Mason is responsible for the 9-patch made from a block swap, and it was machine quilted by Dee Tedford. It will be donated to Transition House. There's lots of stitching detail on this quilt of Virginia Coco Rents in creams, greens, and blues. It's done using free motion quilting. Block of the month is a common theme in quilting circles. Someone comes up with a pattern for the quilt consisting of a number of different blocks. One is to be done each month for the duration of the challenge until the quilt is finished. Usually that means putting it together is left open to the quilter. We have been known to cheat and do 2 blocks in a month. The quilts that you see coming up are from a Block of the Month challenge for 2021 and 2022. For the non-quilting viewers, you will have noticed that we often have someone else stitch the quilt sandwich together for us. The quilt sandwich being the piece part of it on top, the batting, and the backing. This is considered to be acceptable. Here is Ellen Peters' dark teal and rose contribution. Linda Rose quilted it. The one in orange, green, brown, and cream was made by Kate Anderson and machine quilted by Denise White. Linda Crosby hand quilted hers and named it Lorraine. The dark brown and cream is by Debbie Defoe and quilted by Joanne Swanson. A rust brown and cream version was made by Juanita Atkins and quilted by Ken Grantham. Anne Carrick hand quilted her bright pink, green, and white one. Claudette Campbell hand quilted hers as well. Deborah Battist had Joanne Swanson finish off her artwork with machine quilting. Turn around and look at the room in front of us. There's a lot to see. We will go back down the second laneway and check out some of the smaller pieces. Note the lap quilts and the wall hangings on the wooden racks down the center. We have shopping available on the stage, and to the right on the main floor are some good for sale items from the crafty hands of our members. There are so many items still to see that the narrative will be a lot less detailed so that we can get through the rest of the show without putting you to sleep. We don't want anyone pulling quilts off the racks to wrap up for a nap. Cute little cats. Quilters tend to like cats. Many of them have them keeping them company while they stitch. Here is a star medallion quilt. And next up, a little scarecrow girl. Little animals will please any small child. These bright hearts make you feel like you are loved. Hexagons from wool make a really cozy quilt. On the top of the rack is the convergence quilt, honoring our veterans. Convergence is a cutting and piecing technique created by Ricky Timms. We've had several workshops on this technique in our guild. And along with that, we see a number of table toppers, wall hangings, and a tea cozy. We managed to keep our guild going at a pretty good pace from 2020 until now. It took some effort, a lot of emails, picture sharing, sewing sessions with masks, sanitizing, and a limited number of people allowed to attend, but we did it. Isabel Mason became our YouTube star and made us videos each month, showing how to create a little project and encouraging us to participate. A lot of the items you see here today are the result of those programs and the workshops given at our guild. Our ladies particularly like bags of any sort. We've been known to tease one another and say that we're bag ladies, and we have to share the bags with our cats because they like them too, and we're also crazy cat ladies. We're a pretty nice bunch. Sheila Monroe has taught several curved piecing workshops. They're always popular, and you can see an example of the technique in this piece. Grandchildren and great-grandchildren are often the recipients of the quilts our members make. They may be big quilts made for a bed or smaller ones, like these, that will provide a bit of bright decoration for a bedroom or playroom. Someone is going to be very happy with Mickey and Minnie Mouse on their bed. Snakes and ladders made an appearance at the show. The quilt includes the dice and the markers so that you can play the game using the quilt as the board. A little boy will love the quilt with the trucks. The one beside it is a fabric storybook made into a quilt. There are pillows to snuggle with and a banner welcoming spring after a long cold winter has passed. We are back at the top of the laneway and ready to see what is on the other side. Remember, I did say the ladies like bags. The quilt with the red background will make a very cheery wall hanging with its small, colorful squares. Its name is My Flower Garden. It's by Wilma Jenkins. Below is a poor cat being drenched by the rain. Too bad he didn't have an umbrella from the wall hanging to the right of him. Below that, you see more cats in Cindy Knight's wall hanging. Placemats are popular too, and there are several of them hanging in this display. We have small wall hangings that require a lot of work to piece together, some with intricate stitching to add color and texture. Have a look at the poppy here and see all of the shading work that was done to it to create the illusion of depth. And there's a beautiful gristmill quilt to the right of it, and one with tiny embroidered squares above it that would make some child very happy. Cats again. I told you the ladies have an affinity for them. This colorful little hanging, called Cat's Meow, was made by Anna Lakeman. There are a few other pretty hangings that you'll see here before we get into the holiday-themed quilts. The tables in the center of the laneway hold more pretty quilts. Many of them have a holiday theme. Halloween is prevalent here, and there are a few poppies hanging around to commemorate Remembrance Day. Happy Easter, everyone! We have flowers for spring and summer, and a smattering of Valentine's arts for Valentine's Day. Quilters tend to collect magazines and books on quilting. They try out new patterns, and then they run out of room for them. So we get donations of books and magazines and patterns, and we sell the ones that we cannot hold in our library. We have a pretty table topper and some sweet baby quilts on the display tables at the top of the room. These quilts are the perfect size for a crib. The Frozen characters have made their way into one of them. We will backtrack a bit and find the pieces for Christmas. There are lots of wall hangings and table toppers for Christmas. And look at this, a Christmas cat. And a pretty tree skirt that is almost being tramped on by Mrs. Santa. We have an embroidered Santa and reindeer flying through the sky with angels, snowmen, and a tipsy Christmas tree paying homage to a baby in the manger. We can see the bags and a small quilt decorating the coat rack at the end of the lane. The tables hold more Christmas hangings, table toppers, and placemats. Snowmen are mixed in for good measure, and let us not forget some nice stars for Christmas night. On the wall, we have large quilts for Christmas. The first Thematic quilt is called Holiday Spice and was made by Deborah Battis and machine quilted by Ken Grantham. Anita Atkins made the one beside it, and Ken also quilted that one. Home for Christmas was made by Diane Gordon and machine quilted by Denise White. We have a snowman beside it by Cindy Knight. And next is a Christmas panel quilt made by Marlene Tedford and quilted by D-Tech. Joan Waters made and hand-quilted the snowman hanging up next. Gnomes are a popular Christmas character, and the Scandinavian Winter Gnomes lap quilt was pieced by Marilyn Murray and machine quilted by Linda Rose. Juanita Atkins made the winter-themed wall hanging next in line. The Christmas chandelier hanging was created by Alice Marie West and machine quilted by Denise White. Tucked behind our Christmas tree is a Christmas quilt class project by Karen Tugwell and quilted by Joanne Swanson. Diane Gordon made this pretty snowman quilt, and Joanne Swanson machine quilted it for her. We have the Forest of Trees, pieced by Mary Jane Campbell and quilted by Wild Disney. And beside that, just hanging out, are Merry, Merry Snowmen by Claudette Campbell. Let's take a closer look at the Christmas tree before we move on. The Christmas tree has lots of Christmas hearts decorating it. Our members made all of the decorations except for the lights. This year, Janice DeYoung and Norma McCarroll looked after designing and constructing the Raffle quilt. Guild members made squares. The main blocks are a pattern called bear claw. It has many feathers stitched into the quilting. The guild members were asked to name it, and Bears of a Feather won the naming contest. Deborah Battis and Juanita Atkins are shown here selling tickets on the quilt. Deborah won the trophy for selling the most tickets on the quilt. At right, you see the bag that Norma made to hold the quilt if it's not warming a bed. Maxine Mann was a lucky winner when the draw was held in June. You have seen our big quilts already and a number of our smaller items. We have a program every month. One person is in charge of making sure that we have a presentation that is quilting related and interesting. We also have workshops that members sign up to attend and challenges such as the Block of the Month. You have already seen the spectacular results of that challenge. Show items are not restricted to guild activities. A number of the ladies have sewing embroidery machines and have become very proficient at using them. As you can see from Juanita Atkins' beautiful nature scene, it was embroidered in sections and carefully stitched together. Ruth Hopkins taught a workshop for us on the pineapple table runner. At left, you see some of the completed runners. Alice Marie West does Swedish weaving for relaxation. Here are a couple of her finished pieces. 2023 is our 20th anniversary year. We had a challenge to make something based on the number 20. 20 squares of fabric, 20 colors, 20 blocks. You get the picture. There are large quilts hanging across the front of the stage that have a 20 theme, and they are surrounded by smaller items such as pillows, wall hangings, and placemats. Joan Waters made the kitty quilt for her grandson who loves cats. Anna Lakeman completed her 20 challenge with brushed cotton in browns beside it, and Virginia Colgalant picked spools as the theme for her 20 challenge. We have a bag with a change purse that together make up 20 blocks, 20 teacups on a wall hanging, and 20 eggs on a runner. I cannot read all the labels on all of the items, but you can see that we have a lot of creativity and a lot of thought going into these pieces, as well as a lot of hard work. At the bottom right, you see Deborah Battis' 20 miniature quilts on a wall hanging. So cute. Look at the stained glass picture on the stage. Beside it is a quilted Scrabble game, and in front of it you see many items from our programs. We made small bags from the salvage edges of fabric, not because we cannot afford the fabric, but because it is fun to try something different and to find ways to see what we can do with what's available to us. There are little fabric flowers, pictures, and runners. We had workshops for creating things like crazy quilts out of pieces of fabric and decorative stitching. Sewing bags, which are also good for holding lots of other things. A log cabin tree skirt for Christmas. Hearts or wreaths made into wall hangings. Paper-pieced birds and gift boxes made into bags or pillows to learn the craft of paper piecing. We crafted wreaths or hearts from little pieces of fabric that became wall hangings and table toppers. We had received requests from patrons for quilted items for sale from previous years and set up a sale table at which our members could sell their wares. We've received a good response and have kept the sale table. Sales here are for cash only. You can see a large quilt on the rack at the front. There are several scattered around with the hanging quilts that have a for sale label on them too. You see table toppers, wall hangings, pictures, mug mats, placemats, and the ever-popular bags of many styles. As we move along, you can see a similar variety of items on the second table. Do you need a pillow to tuck into the corner of your favorite chair? Here's a good place to get one. A quilt show needs a merchant mall. Just ask the organizers at Quilt Canada. Ours is a bit more subdued, though thoroughly shopping-worthy. Our vendors are Spruce It Up Quilt Shop and River's End Quilting. Right away, we see a notice that Spruce It Up is here and has a block of the month to show off. To the left is a pretty quilt from River's End Quilting on display. You can be sure that they have the supplies to make it with. As we move along the room, we see lots of items made from patterns and kits available for sale. There is a variety of fabric and thread for sale as well. People are progressive and prepared. They take credit cards. So you aren't hampered by the lack of cash in your purse. You can go home with a hamper full of fabric and notions. There are bolts of fabric ready to be cut. You can see some of the notions and tools available for sale here and lots of examples of finished quilts that you might want to make. Now that you've finished your shopping, it's time for the next stop on the tour. Let us serve you. Tea and a sweet are included with your ticket price. Join us in the tea room to the left of the stage. A dash of love and kindness to last throughout the day, one spoon of creativity to use in any way. 2 heaping spoons of laughter adds a special touch. Combine it with a smile. You can never put in too much. If you choose to add a twist, you can always add a friend. Stir these things together and you'll have the perfect blend. Joan Waters was in charge of the tea room this year. She organized the food and the workers, and it went as smoothly as one would expect when Joan is on the task. Here you see Betty Richards, Carol McNeil, Joan Waters, and Isabel Mason, waiting for the thirsty patrons. Take a look around the room and notice the quilts hanging from the walls and decorating the furniture. The show rule is that the quilts have not been displayed at the show in previous years. For the tea room, it is okay to have items that have been shown before. Isabel is enjoying the display of quilts while she waits to do her work. You can see we are well supplied with food. There are gluten-free options available and lemonade or bottled water for anyone not inclined to have tea. Here is a close-up of some of the quilts. The tables are set. The centerpiece of each is a wool table mat with thistles and leaves appliqued on top. This is topped off with a teacup made into a pincushion. This is a lovely way to finish off the show. We gave out a door prize every hour. If you are the lucky recipient, we hope you enjoy what you won. Some shows have judges for the quilts. We do not. We ask our guests to vote on their favorite quilt. At the end of the show, the votes are counted and a winner is declared. Norma McCara's quilt, Moments of Wonder, was the quilt our viewers chose. A little recap is in order. It is always nice to look at the show from the stage This is a panoramic view and it's quite impressive. Thank you to everyone who helped put the show together. To Corinne Walker for being our head coordinator, and to Carol Jackson for being her trusty sidekick. We appreciate all your efforts to make the show a success. Thank you to those who attended it. It wouldn't be much of a show if nobody came to see it. We hope you enjoyed our video and visiting the event, and it would be awfully nice to see you again at our next show, May 25th, 2024. So mark your calendars and come back. Bye-bye now.